there guys, Lewis here again. So in the previous video I showed you guys how to make aluminum, melting down some aluminum cans, of course, soda cans, beer cans, things like that, and creating some aluminum that we can actually keep for later use, once again into casting and things like that. Unfortunately, the flower pot that we used originally didn't survive very well. It fell apart, the heat was too strong in it, so it fell apart. So in another video we went ahead and showed you how to make a actual furnace using fairly commonly available materials that you can get in any hardware store, such as plaster of Paris, sand, and steel bucket. Then we went ahead and mixed some stuff in there together and got it together so that it actually created a nice little furnace. Now it looked great. The question though still remains, will it actually survive a heating, and will it survive various heatings? So today we're going to put it to the test. We're going to actually fire it up, melt some more aluminum cans in there, see if we can get more aluminum cans out of it, and see whether it actually is going to be able to do it, to resist for another heating later on. So let's see what happens.
Alright guys, so we have our whole entire furnace here set up now. This is to test out whether it's actually going to work or not. I have the hair dryer with PVC piping and the pipe straight into the actual furnace itself. I have set up with a couple charcoals on the bottom. I put a couple of pieces of paper in there just to catch the papers on fire quicker, and that way it should catch the charcoal on fire more quickly this time. So, and we have the crucible with some of the old stuff that I had that I want to remelt. So that will be our test. And of course I have an entire trash can there full of a lot more cans. So it should be fun. Alright, let's get this started and see what happens. Alright, so we finally got this thing going. Again, it took me a little while, but there was a really cool trick that I found online. I'm going to actually post it somewhere on the screen. You guys are going to see the trick. I don't know if you guys can even hear the fire, but the fire is really going in there. That nice lid is actually keeping it all in there. Inside the lid is already the crucible inside right there, so we can start putting the caps in there. So I'm going to wait until that starts melting a little bit, and then I'm going to start putting in cans to see how fast they go down. Alright, so here we go. It seems to be working.
Alright guys, as you can see, it's already in full blown. See right here, you just push it down, it just melts right into it. Really cool. So unfortunately, I did make one small calculation, which is the reason why I'm not using the lid, is the fact that, as you can see, the crucible kind of sticks out a little bit over the top, because this hole should have been filled a little bit lower. That way it can blow directly onto the actual coals rather than onto this. If it blows onto this, it kind of, defeats the purpose. But if it's blowing right on the coals, then perfect. It's just going to go right in there. You can see, it just takes a little bit for the can to heat up, and then down it goes. Let's see how much better we can get out of this.
Alright guys, so here we go. We are done with our experiment. So I'm letting the coals cool off a little bit over there, because obviously we want to make sure to check to see whether that survived. That was the whole point of the experiment, right? Now at some point I was actually able to use the lid on it. The lid did increase the amount of heat inside dramatically. It actually allowed me to burn the cans a lot faster. I was able to use it once the coals burned down a little bit. The crucible actually fell down a little bit into it, because as the coals are being used up, they keep breaking apart as they become ash. So they get compacted down into the bottom. You don't want to compact them too much because that will kill the airflow, but it compacted enough so that the top of the crucible was actually right below the actual top of that of our furnace. Once that happened, I was able to put the lid right on it, and that heat got so concentrated in there that cans went down fast, like seconds. Seriously, you put them in, vroom, vroom, and it liquefied. Now, unfortunately, that did burn the briquettes a lot faster, so I wasn't able to burn too many cans because they started getting too low too fast. But it still worked really well. Again, let's see if that survived at the end. When that cools off, we'll dump them out and see how good the integrity of that plaster is. So as you can see over here, there is no hair dryer. As soon as I turned it off, I took it off, because you don't want the hair dryer to get the heat going up the pipe and into the hair dryer itself. It's best to just give it a break. Now I was able to take that, dump the liquid into our little bread pan, and then once it cooled off enough of there, dump it into the bucket of water over here. As you can see, the slag that was left behind, this is probably still pretty hot. The slag that was left behind over here we'll be able to just recycle that again. You know, there's still a lot of metal in there, but there's not much usable stuff that we can use in there. And in here we have our actual thing. So you can see it's still bubbling a little bit. I'm gonna stick my hand in there, hopefully it's not too hot. Let's see. Woo, it is a little bit hot. Okay, here we go. Whoa. Alright, Florida. It's really, really hot in Florida. I'm guessing that's probably the reason why it's still fairly hot. Like, it hurts a little bit to hold it. But here we go. We have one big chunk. I probably used about 25 to 30 cans this time. I didn't count, I probably should have. But it's about 25 to 30 cans to get that set up. So that was actually pretty cool. It's nice and heavy. It's probably a little bit less than a pound, I would say. But yeah, here we go. Awesome. So voila, that actually burned pretty well. And as I said, with the lid on it, it actually retained the heat a lot better. It actually made it start burning a lot faster. And now we're just gonna let that cool off a little bit more, those coals, dump them out, and see the integrity of the plastic. All right guys, so here we go. I have already cleaned off a little bit at the bottom once it cooled off a little bit, just to see whether this survives or not. As you can see, it's still fairly dirty, but you know, there's no coals in there. Now it's still pretty hot, which is kind of cool. It holds the heat a lot longer than I expected it to. Of course, this Florida sun doesn't really exactly help out with that. However, the idea was to see whether we can actually have a furnace that will survive a couple heatings, and the answer seems to be yeah, it does seem to survive a couple heatings. If you can see actually on the walls themselves, as I said, it's actually kind of hot. But if you can see on the walls themselves, there's a little bit of cracking and things, so obviously it won't last forever, but it will last a couple more heatings. So that's actually pretty cool. It's a semi-permanent solution to our furnacing issues. Now over here, you can see the lid. Now I didn't set, when I made the original batch of the lid, you can see right over here all this cracking and all this erosion happening over here. Now that's because when I mixed the original plaster and sand mix for the lid, I didn't do a very good job at it. This is why it's really, really important that we actually do a really good job at it, because otherwise all this, it didn't set correctly and it's just going to start eroding, and that's probably going to compromise the integrity of the entire lid. But overall it actually survived pretty well. It's probably going to be able to be used a couple more times with it. It also has a little bit of cracking and such, but hey, that's pretty cool. So one more, we'll probably be able to use a couple more times to fire a couple more aluminum cans. It's pretty cool. Now let's take a look at what.
Alright guys, so we managed to get that thing working. As we saw, that it actually will be able to be fired up a couple more times again. Now, so if we remember from my original video, this is what we actually managed to get out of about 10 cans using just a flower pot. Now the flower pot didn't survive, so unfortunately this is pretty much the only thing that we've managed to get for the power plant. Pretty much got destroyed. However, again, 10 cans or so. Now, with this new method, apart from the fact that it will survive and be able to do it a couple more times, it won't do it forever, but a couple more times, we also managed to actually get a lot more. So this is what we got from this one now. This, again, I did use a lot more cans this time, 10 cans. This is about 20 or 25 cans or so. I wasn't really counting. I probably should have been, but I wasn't really counting. But I managed to get about 20-25 cans, this much. Still a very considerable difference, even with more cans in it. Now the reason for that is because with the actual furnace, it got so hot in there that we were able to separate a lot more of the slag from the actual aluminum. So we were able to retain back a lot more of the pure aluminum. So we're able to get a lot more out of it back, right? It's a little bit more of a purer system. Again, it's not a very professional system, but it gives you a lot more to work with. So here we go. Now we have some pretty cool raw material that we can work with and build something with it. Now there's two things that I do want to talk about. It's kind of a warning. They're both related to the heat. Now it was so hot that, you know, if you're not paying attention, you have to be really, really careful what you're doing out there. If you're not really paying attention, you could hurt yourself. There was a point there where I wasn't very paying attention to what's going on. I was just really excited about everything working and everything like that. I wasn't paying attention when I got a little bit too close to some of the metal parts of the furnace. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was I got this nasty little burn right here that you see right here from that. Thankfully, I did have a bucket of cold water right there that I was going to use to cool, to cool this off afterwards. So stick my hand in there real quick. It didn't burn too bad. It still burned. I mean, it still hurts. And it's still a burn, and it could have been a lot worse, right? Any other part of me that would have caught on there, maybe my clothing or something like that, could have actually caught on fire. So you have to be really, really careful what you're doing. Now, the second one is also related to the heat, is the fact that, you know, we're in Florida and the furnace does get hot. Even with the lid on it, there was a lot of heat coming out of it. And you're fairly close proximity to that, which means, of course, you sweat a lot. Now, I am drenched in sweat right now. I'm sorry about that, but I am drenched in sweat right now. Of course, sweat comes from water. I got really, really hot in there. I got really, really sweaty, which means I dehydrated quite a bit. So one of the things that I will warn you guys about is, you know, to always have some drinking water there for you to be able to drink. At some points I got a little bit dizzy and things like that, and I realized I wasn't drinking a lot of water. So drink a lot of water, keep yourself hydrated, and then, you know, it should be fun. It should be good to go, but always keep safe, guys. I cannot stress that enough. It's very, very hot what we're playing around with out there, so you have to be real careful with it and, you know, just keep as safe as possible. And again, you know, let's see now next time what we can actually do with this. Hopefully it'll be something fun. All right.